I lost the perfect family and the perfect career.
Mm-hmm.
I just fell completely apart. The whole show just crumbled completely, and I was left for the first time in my life with nothing. A really intense experience. Something died, and I started the new part of myself, a more human part of myself, more alive. I was forced to take a really hard look and say, what do I want to do? First spark of something real and important in the world that I want to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was to reprogram the relationship to feet and foot health. All of a sudden, I was really alive. Really alive. And not just that I was creating, but everything I did worked. All of a sudden, every single move I made created more value for the world, created more interestingness, more connections. It was amazing. In that point, I decided that.
Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for being here. This is the fourth time you are in the studio recording. It's an honor to have you in the space. This is the first time you are on Human Future Podcast, though. So why don't you give a short story, the main story that you carry? What is that? So for people to understand who you are.
I don't really carry a main story. It changes. It's always changing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the main story. But what I'm really curious about right now is what kind of life is possible when the facade starts to fall apart.
Could you share a little bit of a backstory, how you transitioned from, being a MD into like all of that? Like, give me a short version.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was going through medical school and just really hating it,
Mm-hmm.
but going with it at the same time, because what else am I going to do? I was in my early 20s and I didn't know I didn't know anything about anything. I'd never had anyone that held space for me in a way that helped me to unfold my authentic curiosity and my authentic questions about the world. So I was just in this robotic state going through life, and yet something was not working. It was deeply not working about my experience with the medical school program.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to the end of the medical school,
Mm-hmm.
where I had put all of my effort and focus and attention to become an orthopedic surgeon. Specifically, I wanted to do the residency program at the program where I was studying as a medical student.
Yep.
And I was really good friends with the residents. We would go out and have fun, and it was a real bond had formed. And also I was doing so much research and practice with certain techniques that were very complicated, that I would be in the operating room offering kind of coaching to some of the residents about some procedures, and that pissed some of the older residents off. It pissed them off, and it led me to get blacklisted from my own program.
Mm.
And I got another spot in another place, and yet I was so hurt about it, and it unveiled to me the deeper violence and hierarchy and competition that was going on.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have said that back then, but I said, I have to get out of here. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I remember when I found out I was about not getting the spot in my program, I was just crying and crying and crying for a long time. At the same time, 2 weeks before, the woman that I had dated for like 6 years, who was the perfect woman on paper, also decided for the last time that we were not going to be together anymore. So I lost the perfect family and the perfect job, career. And I just fell completely apart. The whole show just crumbled completely, and I was left for the first time in my life with nothing. A really intense experience. I think the first one is maybe the most scary. For 25 years, or 26 years, I had gone one path. It was, get there.
Yep.
And it just vanished like that. And I knew deep down inside that was it. To some people, I was telling some stories about, I'm just going to take some time off. Specifically my parents, because they would not be able to handle that I was on the way out, that I had decided to go out completely. And I died. Something died, and I started to, over the next years, unfold a new part of myself, and really a more human part of myself, a more alive, dynamic, learning part of myself. I think, until the point where I was, until 26 years old, the first 26 years of my life, I had read maybe 5 books total.
For school? I mean, I'm sure you read a lot.
Well, I'm saying.
Oh, you're literally outside of. Yeah.
Not textbooks.
Sure.
I read a lot of textbooks.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of Adderall and textbooks, and I was speaking of taking a lot of Adderall and reading a lot of textbooks. I was totally abusing myself. I was really harming myself as some sort of mechanism to balance out the outer and the inner. Now I actually had to participate in the world. I was forced to take a really hard look and say, what do I want to do?
Right.
And it wasn't until I was 28, so 3 years later, 28, 29, that the first spark of what's something real and important in the world that I want to work on. And that was to reprogram the relationship to feet and foot health.
Right.
Which came through this roundabout way, and starting a podiatry practice.
Starting podiatry practice after medical school, right?
After doing consulting work for a few years, and then being invited to co-found a group practice. All of a sudden, I was really alive, really alive, and not just that I was creating, but everything I did worked. All of a sudden, every single move I made created more value for the world, created more fun, more interestingness, more connections. Everything just started working all of a sudden. It was amazing. It was so powerful, that first jolt of purpose. And in that point, I decided that I would be barefoot for my life. That's what I would live barefoot. And I did that for like 5 years. I was exclusively barefoot for 5 years. No shoes, unless I had to, it's the only, I would say I was barefoot 99.99% of the time, because there were some little moments, like if I wanted to get on an airplane, they would force me to wear shoes. Otherwise I could not get on the airplane. I mean, they didn't force me. They said, if you don't put on your shoes, you cannot get on the airplane. I said, okay, well, I have to make a decision. I put on whatever shoes I carried in my backpack, and I would get on the plane and then take them off again, and everything would be fine.
Right.
And then there was situations where I would go to a supermarket, and they would say, you can't come in here without shoes. I say, okay, thank you. I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
No big deal.
Right.
There are different situations. And it was a huge journey into integrity, into commitment, into passion. The conversations I had with people around the world walking around barefoot in the strangest places were so fun, and it was so clear and so simple, and people really connected to it because it's really coming back to this essential state. Everybody said, God, when I was little, I loved to be barefoot. I was barefoot all the time. I don't know what happened. They would always say that. And as it evolved, it became about something deeper, which is about stripping off the thing that is separating you from the world. There's this line in the story of Moses that says something along the lines of, your shoes, they've carried you this far, and now that they're torn up, they don't serve you anymore, and it's time for you to shed them and come back in contact with the thing that has been holding you the whole time. And it's really this thing that, there's nothing wrong with having identities, and yet the issue comes when you forget that it is just that. It's just an identity. It is not you. It is not your essence.
Right.
That thing that you care about right now can be amazing, can be really powerful, and it is not you. You are not that thing. You're just wearing that thing for a while.
Yeah.
And so now, with being barefoot, I don't do it that much anymore.
Right.
I now choose, and I had to go through my own process of saying, okay, this has become an identity for me now, and it is now inhibiting me in certain ways, and I don't want that anymore. So now I'm going to start a process of choosing when I wear shoes and when I don't. And at the beginning, let's say a few months ago, it's only been several months, I was having this fear, the same fear, like, what will people think of me? I've said to everybody, I'm barefoot. That's how I'm going to live my life. What are they going to think of me? That I'm a fool, I'm a fraud, I was wrong. And it's so intense, these emotions, these things that, these old things that come from, either way from childhood or from other lives, that really shape the way that we move and don't move.
Yeah. So would you say society has this discomfort with quote unquote barefoot people? Like whenever normal people, whatever that means, see you, let's say in the supermarket or in public places, oftentimes it causes discomfort. Why is that?
Okay. Yeah. So that's a different question. Yeah. So why is it? As I come deeper and deeper into the study of, or the sort of apprenticeship into myself, which is a quote from David White, whose podcast I've been listening to, that I've just been obsessed with lately. This, as I apprentice to myself as a human, and also the researching my work with other humans, I find that, let's say I remember being at a supermarket once, and this is the only time this happened, but it was really striking. This man was deeply offended about me being barefoot, and
I might be with you. Might have been with you.
I think, you might. It was at a Whole Foods up north.
Up north, yep.
And this guy, he was sincerely offended about it, or he seemed when I say sincerely, I mean he was wholly affected and offended about me being barefoot. And as I'm saying, as I study myself and other humans more and more, I realize that this intensity of reaction is always caused by a depth of resentment and pain that people are carrying that needs a space to just diffuse itself, needs something, anything. It does not matter what it is.
Right.
It just needs something. And somehow naturalist things are a great target, because when someone who's living a synthetic life observes another person living a natural life or a more natural life, it is so painful to see that. Deep inside, to see it and connect to it and say, instead of saying, wow, I remember when I was a kid and I used to love being barefoot and I don't do that anymore. God, what happened? Instead of doing that, there's a thing that goes over that says, what do you think you're doing? It's easier to point the finger out and say, what do you think you're doing? Than to go into that pain within and say, what happened to me? What have the last 30, 40 years of my life been about?
Yeah, I think those two scenarios represent very different levels of awareness. For most people, the reason why, at least from my perspective, they targeting natural people is because it's a minority. Basically, everyone else is doing one thing and they're used to doing it. And then all of a sudden, there's a subset of people now doing something a little different. So they're trying to put them in the box, basically, of society.
It might be that. As I look deeper and deeper, I think it goes a couple layers deeper than that. Because, a minority represents in some way something that someone's doing that everybody else is not doing. And usually that thing that they're doing that everyone else is not doing, not usually, sometimes, in this case, it is something that connects to something more essential, more prime, more. Yeah, I'm wondering the distinction between prime and primal. They seem related. Like a prime function and a primal function are kind of the same thing. So anytime someone gets offended, reactive, it is not about the situation, right? Whenever there's a response that is out of proportion to the scenario, you can be pretty confident that the person is experiencing an emotion, which is distinct from a feeling, and an emotion is, this incompleted thing from the past, right? Around which people have formed resentments, hatred, and it's an unprocessed pain, meaning it's a pain that happened once that never got its completion. Meaning the pain came up, the person expressed it, and the other person said, I hear you. Right. And I acknowledge your humanity, before jumping to, hey, there's some people that are very, they receive a lot of persecution, like, shut up, relax, you don't know what you're talking about, you're just a kid, you have to listen. And other people received, okay, we can make this better, we can fix it, and they both have the same effect. They both have the same effect, which is the energy that wanted to move did not move, and it got stuck. And then what that reactivity, that out of proportion outburst, is really the emotional body saying, please help me complete this. I need to complete this. Please, like, somebody listen. And so what I'm getting is that, when somebody has this disproportionate reaction, what you could do is say, yeah, I hear you. You're really angry about this. This is really not okay for you. Yeah. And I want to say about that, because I was talking to someone recently, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that they were talking to their partner, and their partner's freaking out, and they were taking this very calm, centered position to to try to hold space, and that the person was getting more triggered because you cannot fake connection, and it's likely that the person who was trying to be calm was also playing their own survival strategy, the survival strategy of calm down,
right,
put my emotions over there, keep them far away. I shouldn't feel this stuff, because if I feel it and then this might get intense, and if it gets intense, then I will be hurt. There will be violence, some sort of violence, verbal violence or physical violence or sexual violence. All these things. Most people, if not all people, experience some form of violence in their childhood. I mean,
for sure.
The world we live in is contexted in a way where violence is a normal thing. It's happening all the time. And it's not about blaming anyone. It's not that your parents fucked anything up, but you experience violence. And as a cause of the violence, you shaped yourself in a certain way, in which you recreate violence. Because that's what was normal.
That's what yeah.
And violence is persecuting someone. Violence is ignoring someone. Violence is rescuing someone. Trying to save them. That's a form of violence, because when you try to take someone's pain away, you're basically trying to rip out a part of them. You're trying to extract their humanity. If you want to learn about the connection between pain and humanity, there's a great book called The Worthing Saga by Orson Scott Card. It's a sci-fi. I've been totally sci-fi nerd lately. I only read sci-fi now. And Orson Scott Card is one of my favorite sci-fi authors, and he writes this book called The Worthing Saga, and it's about these group of humans who develop this special powers for healing, and they decide all of a sudden to be the protectors of the whole galaxy, and they basically monitor the different humans with these powers. They monitor different planets, and they basically go healing people real time so that nobody has any problems. And this man, his name's Jason Worthing, he goes to sleep for a long time. You read the book to find out why. He wakes up and he's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What do you think you're doing? This is terrible. Like you think you're helping these people, but you're really robbing them of their humanity. And it's like, wow, yeah, that's it. And I'm not trying to suggest like don't have empathy or don't try to help people. What I'm saying is, it's an invitation to take a close look at why are you helping people, and is it really coming from a place of helping them, or is it coming from your own fear of seeing someone in pain, or hurting?
Closing the loop on the Barefoot, out of all of this
year, went on a big loop.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. It's still relevant there. What are the biggest takeaways and learnings that you've acquired from this journey? I mean, you're still on that journey, but like being so committed for 5 years, what are the biggest takeaways?
Wow. I learned well, first of all, any learning that can happen needs to happen experientially. You need to go do it. No, you can't read your way into it. You can't, maybe a book can help you bring more awareness to what you already experienced and bring you more depth of language and a way that you can communicate it forward. But you have to go have the experience. So you got to go put your feet on the ground. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you really have more options available than you think. Always, in every moment, you can choose. Like I like to say, you can choose from what's not offered on the menu. I have this joke that is, what is the one thing that's offered on every page of every menu in every restaurant?
Water.
Well, water is on one page of each menu, but nothing.
Yeah.
You can choose nothing. You can choose to go there and sit down and say, today I came here. I'm not even really sure why. I didn't actually come here because I was hungry.
Yeah.
I came here because I wanted to be with the people I'm with,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to have nothing, and maybe hand water. You gotta be nice and at least consume something.
Yeah. It has to be sparkling. So they charge you.
Yeah. So pace, contribute something to the golden arrow of consumption. That's from a video called The Story of Stuff, which is on YouTube, which is one of the most fantastic videos I've ever seen about consumerism. But and please watch it if you're listening to this. Like, just stop listening to this and go
check it out. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, the learnings. Yep.
What else? A lot about consumption. I learned a lot about mindless consumption and what do I really need as a human, and how can I evaluate more attentively, consciously what I want to use and consume. I don't think as humans we consume. That's a part of life.
Yeah.
At what level is a whole other story. So sometimes, I mean, I'm nomadic. I travel a lot. And whenever I get somewhere, I have this small piece of me that's keeping my attention on the garbage can, and noticing how much waste do I produce, plastic and stuff like that. And when I'm alone, I maybe produce one little thing of trash in a month. And then I go to some places and I go stay with people, and they're producing a huge bag of trash a day, or sometimes more. And I say, gosh, this is really that's one house out of millions of houses that are doing this. And where is this stuff going, and what is the consequence? People are not really considering the true cost of their consumption. I mean, I'm just by seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just clear that it's not being considered correctly. And when I say the true cost, I mean, what is the price that humanity and the planet is paying for this one plastic bag?
Right.
If the person who produced the plastic bag paid the full price of the whole life cycle of the plastic bag, we'd be having a much different conversation, and plastic bags would not be given out for free at a supermarket. And because there would have to be a whole supply chain for collecting the bag after it's used. There would have to be a whole system for processing the bag into something else, into I don't know, but it's not being attended to, and the big companies are not doing it, and individuals are not doing it as much as they could, because the priorities are just different.
For sure. Have you thought about reasonable solutions that are possible? They're within the possibility range,
Be barefoot more often.
Okay. Yeah, that's within possibility for masses to shift the mentality to that degree.
It's to do experiments where for people to do experiments whereby they find out they learn about aspects of themselves that they did not know were possible before. So right now I committed, I'm almost at the end of 6 months of eating no animal products. That started because 6 months ago I was doing anger work with a client, and I went first because I watched this movie Dark Waters, which I also recommend everybody watch. It's about the lawyer who went against DuPont for making Teflon and these other chemicals that were really harming lots and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And I was so angry when I watched this movie, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and I'm in an eco village, and none of the structures are closed. So I just want to yell and scream. And this is, I do a lot of emotional work. So, but I didn't want to wake the whole village up, 10 o'clock at night. I would have woken everybody. It was a big eco village in Brazil. I would have woken everybody up. So I didn't do it. Next day, I go with the man to the beach, and we're going to do some emotional work together. And, he's the client. I said, no, I'm going first because I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
And I was just raging, and I was so angry, and my tears are flowing, and I needed that space so badly to really communicate what it was like for me to watch this movie. And I feel really sad still, because how is it possible that a company knows that their product kills people without a doubt? They know, they had the studies, they kill people, and they still do it. How is that possible? What is going on? Why, what world are we living in?
Yeah.
And that this thing happens.
Yeah.
And anyway, the man I was working with, we'd been doing this work for a while, but he had never seen me go. And I have a lot of practice, and I had a lot of rage in that moment because of that.
Yeah.
And he would really hurt me, and he was just in tears, listening to me, hearing me, and letting it in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're there, and I say, okay, now it's your turn.
Mm-hmm.
What is that fire that's burning in you that you've been holding and that you cannot hold any longer? And he's vegan, and he it was just really this huge ball of fire that was sitting in his belly that just erupted. And he's going and going, and I'm already so liquid because I had already put my whole heart on the table. And as he's going, it's just piercing it's like arrows piercing my heart.
Yeah.
And I said, God, I really care about this also. I really deeply am not okay with the enslavement and imprisonment and rape and slaughtering of animals. I'm not okay with that. I am okay with people eating animals. I'm not okay with the way that it's being that these beings are being turned into products.
Yeah.
And slaves. And it hit me so hard, and I was crying, and I was so deeply moved by that I said, okay, it's time. I have cared about this for a very long time, and now it's time for me to put my values into practice. So I decided that I would not eat any animal products for 6 months. And it's been so revealing, so incredible. I mean, it's been challenging. It was challenging at first, actually, but I had already applied so much energy on the front end, like doing these processes.
Yeah.
That there was I had filled the rocket fuel tank, and it blew up. I exploded out into the stratosphere of this experiment, and I started to recognize how much this drive to eat animal products is it's an addiction. It's deeply an addiction, and by addiction I mean something that is harmful to you and to the bigger you, and that you keep doing anyway. And you think you could stop at any point, but you don't ever do it. You don't ever actually stop.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I could stop eating. I went to this place for a week, and they didn't have any meat, and I was fine.
Yeah.
People use this kind of language as a way to avoid the addiction conversation. To me, that's an addiction. And I had to work through the layers of that addiction, and I committed to 6 months to really clean it up, and then come back again, which is, I think there are like 10 days left on the 6 months.
Okay.
So this is really on the back end to start over. and evaluate from a place where it's not these programmed automatic drivers about what I want and don't want, but really that I can sit with it, ask questions, ask myself questions, ask my body, ask the meat or the cheese or the eggs, like, have a conversation, ask the people who are preparing it a lot of questions. One of the things I was really moved about, actually, now that I remember, the same man who I was working with, I remember he drove me to the airport, maybe the day after that or 2 days later. And it was in this little tiny town in Brazil. There's like really nothing, and he's nothing, vegan or cool or interesting like this. And we sit in this little tiny restaurant, cafe thing across from the airport. And before we sit, he goes to the woman that owns the place and he asks for a menu, and he probably spent 20 minutes with her. It's, okay, can you tell me what's in this? Right. Where do you get this stuff from? And I'm sitting there saying, I'm just looking at him. It was such reverence, like, wow, you are committed to this. Yeah. You put your whole self into the attention and the awareness and the consciousness to really decide what you will put in your body. Right. I said, wow, that's wonderful commitment. Yeah. And that was something that moved me also. And it has worked that way for me. This not eating animal products, this decision has led me to really slow down. I have to look through a whole menu. I have to check, what do I really want to eat? I have to ask a lot of questions. I get to ask a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And also a lot of wonderful interactions and conversations have resulted from it.
For sure, yeah. Could you share with me more about your emotional work? I know that's the main bulk of the time that you spend now. What is that you do? And we'll dive, maybe let me ask a couple more, like, so don't go on too long of a journey. Just give me like a shorter, and then we'll explore.
It's hard.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah.
The emotional work, you asked this thing of what the different things I learned from being barefoot.
Yep.
And part of it is totally connected to the emotional work. Because when you take the covering off, in this case from your feet, you start to feel things. You start to come in contact with the pain of being alive, of being in contact, and the ground hurts, and sometimes it's hot, and your feet hurt, and you feel scared because there might be glass or other things on the ground. And
for sure,
that stuff, if you want to grow and become capable of moving through the world in this uncovered state, you gotta stay with it. Feel it, let it drive your attention, your awareness, your decision making. Be and grow with your feelings. Most people that I work with, I mean, everyone I work with, because that's why they come to work with me, but most people I interact with in the world are so scared of feeling. Because whatever story from many stories from our upbringing, which represent a greater cultural context of numbness, because if you're numb, then you just coast through, and you're easily trainable and manipulatable. And so that's, I think that already touches on the question about the emotional work.
Yeah, like, so how do you work with clients? What is that you guys, what does that process look like? Emotional work, what does emotional work look like?
It happens on different layers. There's the mental reprogramming layer, which is to start to get new maps and new possibilities about why you don't need to run away from your feelings, which, most of us exist in a heavily intellectual field. We run most of consciousness through our intellect.
Yeah.
It's a different consciousness and mind are different things.
Mm-hmm.
We run most of our consciousness energy through the mental body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of mental reprogramming that needs to happen, because as much as you want to try to, you're like, no, I can't, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And on another level, it's just starting to practice things, just starting to try things you've never tried before, and it's trying things that are at the edge, so they're reachable, but it's a far reach. So you gotta you start training these muscles of expression.
What would you say is the biggest? So how do people even recognize that they are ripe for emotional work? What problem is there in their awareness? How would you frame the problem?
Yeah. Most people come in saying something like, I don't know how to relate with people. I try to have a good relationship with my partner, with my kids, and something is just not working. I don't know what's going on. I've tried everything and I can't figure it out. I try being nicer, I try buying them things, I try going on trips, but nothing works. And so that's why a lot of people come to me, that a lot of them have just a relationship has fallen apart completely, or something along those lines. I mean, relating is such an essential human function.
Yeah.
And yet none of us had any training in really relate, like really real what's the word? Real directed training at relating. And I'm talking about
like a formal training, or like a
core body relating, which is not just talking about mental things. And especially, I work a lot with men, and especially men are become really frustrated because women seem to have a more natural plug into their heart, into their emotional body.
Yeah.
And men are just so frustrated that she wants me to share what I'm feeling, and I'm telling her what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're completely missing the ball on that one.
Right.
I've worked with a lot of women also. I mean, it's a different path, but it's still emotional body training. So you go to the gym and you train your physical body, and you go to school and to different things and train your mental body, and your emotional body needs training.
What are some like main principles in that training? What are the main like pillars that you use?
The work is powered by distinctions.
Okay.
So when you talk about pillars, I think, for me, what I get is it's really about the distinctions, and a lot of these distinctions that I use come from this possibility management world, which is really a wonderful, the rich global village that people are just hacking away at what these exact questions, like, what are the pillars? What do we do? How do we navigate through this? And the emotional work is not the thing, but it's a core part of entering into a new culture. If you don't have people who can be connected to their emotional body, then there will be no aliveness, there will be no realness, there will be no full potential. Because if you two out of your 4 cylinders are not working, then you can't fly.
Yeah. Could you talk about, like, I know that's
I'll talk about some of the pillars.
Okay.
One of them we've already been exploring, which is your different bodies. So you really have to get that you have physical body, mental body, emotional body, energetic body. The important thing about getting is that it means that they require different things in order to be nourished, to be trained, to be used, and they experience pain and things in different ways. These different bodies, they're all connected, obviously, and nourishment is not, I just nourish my emotional body now, or just this one. There's a lot of crosstalk, and most people don't go to the emotional body gym. They go to the gym and they work out their physical body, right? And they go to the school and they work out their mental body, and they don't go to these places mostly to work out these other bodies, at least not consciously. And conscious practice is really important if you're wanting to become a fully expressed, alive human in this world. If you don't care about that, then go about your, yeah, as it is. Everything's great. Yeah. The next one is, and we also touched on it, is distinguishing feelings from emotions. So feelings are this right now energy. I can call it up. I can make it get bigger, make it get smaller consciously. I can listen to it and have it help me to navigate present. Emotions are the stuff from the past, the feelings from the past that got stuck, that were not completed, or that were from other people that you took on. And they can, if you've never trained this before, they feel just like feelings. Emotions and feelings will feel the same. You won't be able to distinguish them if you have not practiced this consciously, that distinction. And so you'll think you're feeling something, but really it's an emotion from the past, and you're trying to have this conversation with this person, and you're really angry. You think it's about them, but it really is about your mom or your sister. And so you're really having a conversation with your sister, and you're projecting that onto this person, and it creates a huge mess, because usually that other person also has not trained their distinction between feelings and emotions. So they get triggered about you being raging at them because their dad did the same thing. Right. And then both people are triggered, and then you have a huge mess.
And that is all on the level of emotion. So that's the emotion being triggered.
Yes.
And feeling is more of like this conscious sensing mechanism that you have, that you can feel the space, what's kind of in the, it's closer to the truth.
More subtle. And sensing space is one aspect of feeling. So mostly you would use fear to sense a space. Fear is the energy that, fear is your nervous system, right? So it's on the inner level. It's this part of you that is electric, and it sends signals out all the way through the body up to the periphery, and then it also receives signals in and processes the information. So you can actually enhance your sensory system out farther into the environment with your fear. So now we're getting into the realms of magic. This is what you would, what I call practical magic, which is, not like woo-woo magic or like, magic show or magic trick, but it's really how you can play with the present moment with your will. Through your conscious will, you can actually change what's happening. So let's say you and I are having a conversation, and the conversation's about the weather, and then I say, well, wait a second. And I stop, and I sense like, what's really going on here? Okay. It seems like either you or I have something deeper that we're avoiding. Okay. And I start to sense into that. And then with my fear, I also check like, okay, what's the capacity to enter into a new territory? And then with even a little bit more fear, I can see what's the first step there where I don't make, where I feel fear that I'm going to victimize you, or I'm going to victimize myself. I feel fear that I'm going to play a superiority game. I start to sense into the dynamics, the very subtle dynamics of what could play out between you and I based on your triggers and my triggers. And then I say, okay, I have an idea. And then with my anger, I go, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say the thing. I'm going to say, stop, stop a second, which is a very scary move. It's like the conversation, the show is is going. We're having the conversation about the weather.
Yeah.
Everything's going as planned.
Yeah.
We're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I say, wait a second. It's a scary move. It takes a certain amount of anger to speak up into the space and bring this energy into the space that stops the thing that's ongoing. And let's say, going back a couple steps, with my sadness, I can drop a little bit deeper into the connection between you and I, and bring in a little bit more empathy and more compassion, and use that to even get a sense of what is it that's going on with you that you're not saying.
Yeah.
What is it that's going on with me that I'm not saying? I also connect deeper with myself. Like, oh wow, yeah, I'm actually really struggling with something right now, and I'm not saying that to you. Like, this something really is hurting, and I'm not. I have not said it, and I want to say that. I want to say it to you now. And to make that move of there's something that's hurting, and I want to say that to you now is a move. It's like it is the essential move of connection. You could feel connected with someone because you talk to them for hours and hours about blah blah whatever, and you can feel more connected to someone in 5 seconds,
right,
of them really saying the truth. You're saying what's hiding behind the veil.
That's right.
So that's what sadness is really for. And then there's joy, which is about I'm here with you, and I'm a whole person. I don't have anything to hide. I don't need to hide anything. And wow, and these lights are here, and so that's the next pillar, which is for the 4 feelings. You work with a human works with 4 feelings:
the anger, the joy, name them:
anger, fear, sadness, and joy.
Right.
And these are these core energies that you play with to create relating, to create the plug-in between the energetic world and the physical world. It's these qualities that bring that define the aliveness and the energy that you bring into the world. Most people hide this. And they hide it and hide it and hide it, and it's like the dimmer, the dimmer on the light. And every time you don't go there, the light gets a little dimmer. It gets a little dimmer. Maybe it's 0.1% dimmer each time. And it gets dimmer and dimmer, and the person keeps going like this and like this and like this until there's just nothing, and just empty, completely empty. And they feel so far away, and yet it's all building in there. It's all stored.
In a notion of kind of like wrapping up the conversation, I'd like for you to paint a picture of a desirable future the way you see it, and any actionable steps that we need to start taking today, or that you would recommend people explore.
I've been asked this question so many times in the last couple of days, and I have been left mostly blank about it, because it's to think about or to try to project out to a future is already part of the trap. And this is ironically the future I see, where the focus is really on the now, on the here, on piercing through the show and the veils, and exposing myself to you and to the world as I am. Vulnerable, willing to receive help, willing to say, this is not working. It's not just that I come clean about the things that are not working in my life, but it's also about the things that are not working in relation to you. But I say, wait a second, this, so vulnerability is not just when I cry in front of you or when I reveal something hidden that would sort of humble myself in a gentle way. Vulnerability is also about when I put on the table that, and not in these words, but the relationship we've had so far has been bullshit. It's been a lot of bullshit, and I really want to know who you are. And I've been with you for years, and I don't know you. I don't get a real. I don't have any mass to hold in relation with you. And so that's also that's also part of vulnerability. And so, really, and that comes from doing the emotional body training work, because we all have to be able to identify that I have to identify that I'm feeling that's in there. And there's somehow when I see my bodies, I perceive that the distance is so short between the me that's perceiving and the thing that is to be perceived. It's so close, and yet it's so hard to get to that thing that's really going on. Let's say I'm having a conversation with a woman and I want to get closer, but I can't most of the time I cannot find that I want that. It's not perceptible. It's not and instead I'm playing this whole show, which is based on that wanting, actually. I'm playing this whole show, and I'm being cool, and I'm being nice, and I'm being this, and I'm being that. Or I don't want to come closer, and I'm like being a little standoffish. And what if I just said, hey, I want to be close. I want to come closer to you. What do you, would you go there with me? You say, this is what I want. I've been dancing around it the whole time. I've been playing this game, and this is what I really want. I think the world would benefit in really unexpected ways from that kind of training.
Basically, remove any kind of sugar coating and go straight to the source of the essence of what you're trying to communicate, and not try to make it comfortable or convenient or soft for people.
Which starts with me actually being able to go to what the thing I'm sugarcoating is. Most of the time, I'm also blind to the thing I'm sugarcoating. So how to get there? And I have one workshop space that I hold every week for men, where each of us takes turn practicing letting the needy little boy speak. So the context is that a lot of us have this strategy. I would say the majority of us have this strategy called the good boy strategy, where you that's the sugar coating, being nice, being good, and behind that there were these needs that were not met, and so you had to become a nice boy to try to get the needs met, but in really creative kind of non-linear ways. And so there's this needy boy that's hiding behind the good boy. So I somehow made these connections as I was unfolding this space called Good Boy Busters. And so one way is to try to go at the good boy strategy and try to unpack it and unfold. And I thought, this doesn't seem like the best way to do it. I think there's something else. So I started to unfold. Okay, what is the good boy thing covering? And it's okay, this needy boy. Okay. Let's practice letting the needy boy speak. So, each man takes turn, so several minutes, and they start first letting this neediness, because the neediness is forbidden. It's one of those forbidden territories. So start to really, we make a safe space, to go there. Start experiencing your neediness. It's so terrifying for all of us. It was so terrifying when we started. We had no idea what we were doing. It's like, it's like this, and it's at the beginning, it's really core stuff, like, please, mom, come hold me, please come love me, please, just, I'm hungry, please, these things that you couldn't say.
Yeah.
And as the practices unfolded over months and months and months, what the insight is that the clarity about the wanting is hidden inside of that needy little boy, because the mature adult person who knows what they want and can ask for it is the needy little boy that never matured. So because neediness is forbidden, clear adult wanting is not possible.
Right. It's also forbidden. Yeah.
Well, it's not accessible, because it's like, if you want to be a great tennis player, you have to first be a shitty tennis player. You have to start there, and you got to work on it. That process didn't take place.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And we found this golden key for clear wanting, and it really starts just by going there and letting that part grow up. Showing up every week, practicing, and then going out in life and doing experiments to be needy. Like, it's so terrifying to go out and say, and just being out in the world saying, and be needy.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? They're going to run away from me. And anyways, for everybody to try that experiment if they want, to go be needy. And if you want to practice letting the needy girl or boy speak, get a group of people together and practice, or call me,
or join exactly that existing one. Any lost thoughts, directions to point people to, any lost ideas, or anything that you'd like to share? Maybe working on something that you want people to check out, or anything like that.
I'm really interested in this research this neediness research is part of a bigger research about fragmentation. So this is the needy boy it's like it became this thing that you ripped out, this fragment, and you hid away, and with that fragment of the neediness, then the wanting went with it. And there are other forbidden territories or behaviors or fragments that have been ripped out. I'm super curious about that. So if you who are listening have any curiosity about this, or any insights, or you've noticed things, I would love to hear about that. Please write to me or reach out. And the places to reach out are mostly Instagram. The Urban Barefoot is where you can find me. It's kind of a graveyard of old content. Maybe it will resurge or have a resurgence. And I have a lot of spaces available for men's work. Every week, most days of the week, there's some sort of space. So the Good Boy Buster dojo that I just talked about, there's a space for men to practice feeling together with men. I have a men's group that meets every week, and there's more evolving all the time. So reach out and let's see. I'll work with you to find out what's the doorway. And there's always one-on-one work, which for some people that's the comfortable place to start, because being in groups is a little
intimidating.
I've forgotten the word because I don't even remember it anymore. It is, I don't know, daunting, or it is intimidating. That's the word. That's another forbidden fragment. And the coaching work is fun. It's transformational. It goes all over the place, and people report having kind of psychedelic like experiences, and having the opportunity to make a new life for themselves that really works for them.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your journey, for sharing your wisdom. Thank you, listeners, for sticking around. If you're still around, thank you for
still here.
Yeah, if you're still here. Looking forward to see you and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye. Yeah.